Hi, and welcome to an Organized Chaos podcast. I'm Bobby Quarters. Chaos is here with me as well. We just wanted to thank you for watching.
Yes. Hey, Bobby.
And hey, and while you're here, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You can follow me on YouTube as well as Chaos and the podcast channel, which all three of those channels will be streaming this very show you're about to watch. All these counselors start dropping dead, left and right. Heinous killings. Turns out, that kid who drowned the year before, his mother came back to that camp and exacted revenge.
There's some stories going round about this wayfaring stranger. Those who whisper of his past, how his coming means danger. But maybe there's hope to be found when he silently arrives. For no trouble can outlast the return of Jake's sunrise.
You're all here because there is nothing to return to. Dark days lie ahead of us all. We will teach you how to fight.
Gus March Phillips, I have a mission I want you to lead. Thank you, Sergeant.
What's the plan? We're losing the war. Hitler is not playing by the rules, so neither are we.
If I'm to do this, I'll need my own team. You won't like them.
Let's go!
They're all...
No!
mad.
They'll need to be.
This is an unsanctioned, unauthorized mission. If we fail, England will be condemned to a lifetime under the German boot.
Hello there. I'm here to show you a wonderful place.
You can be a hero by purchasing a residence in a Vault-Tec vault today. Because if the worst should happen tomorrow, the world is going to need you to build a better day after.
The mission of the vaults should be important to everyone.
Holy shit. You're an actual vault dweller.
I am.
I thought all you dipshits were dead.
Hello, and welcome to our Organized Chaos podcast. Bobby, I don't think we've done the formal, hello and welcome to our
No, we
Organized
have not.
Chaos podcast for a while.
I thought that
here's
video.
The intro. Hey, yo, hi.
I thought that video we filmed when I just had chin scruff was, well and enough. But
yeah.
Hello, hi.
It's good to remind people to like and subscribe for sure. But
Absolutely,
Bobby, did you know we're talking about three pretty good things in Rebel Moon?
Yeah.
Not to spoil our opinions of Rebel Moon, but
no, not at all of part 2 of Zack Snyder wishes he made Star Wars. No, not at all.
But yeah, we will dive into that. But we do have a guest.
We do.
To talk about one of the things, because one of the things we're talking about is Jake Sunrise.
Yes, one of the stuffing things is Jake Sunrise.
Yeah, and we got the creator right here, Dean Page. How you doing, Dean?
Hey, Dean.
You are muted.
I said I was saying I was I'm proud to be one of the stuffing things.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I haven't seen Rebel Moon, but from watching the trailer, I did get a strong Star Wars sense.
Oh,
that doesn't go away when you watch it.
No.
No, that movie, we'll get into it, but like it is so derivative of other movies. I feel like we'll get into it when we get to it. Oh my god.
I'll try to think.
I have Zack Snyder opinions. I've seen most of his movies. I mean,
the Rebel Moons are probably his worst movies yet.
Yeah,
like I can't think of anything he's done that's worse.
Definitely.
Than those. And he definitely has some stinkers. Like I am no fan of Batman v Superman at all. But
Sucker Punch is what made me realize that he wasn't a good director.
Well, that Sucker Punch is actually it's got like visually, like
it's visually amazing.
But the story, like for me, that was a movie that made me realize he should not be in charge of a story.
No,
that's story is just like, what the fuck?
No. That's why everyone's like, he should be doing comic book movies. I feel like they're saying that because they think he's good at it, but I think it's because he's bad at controlling the story.
Yeah.
I think
he makes music videos.
Yeah. Oh god,
that's my opinion.
Of some Zack Snyder music videos. That'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
Sucker Punch was just a series of music videos.
Yeah. I think a DJ even talks.
Say that about Man of Steel too.
Yep, you can absolutely say that about Man of Steel. You could say that about 300.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah.
You could say that about Watchmen. The best parts are always the music scenes.
Yeah.
True.
Watchmen was such a disappointment, along with like, oh god, this isn't Zack Snyder, but Wolverine Origins, because the best part of the movie was the intro where there's like a montage scene. That was the best part of both of those movies.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah. The movie is very downhill from there.
It's so disappointing.
It's funny you mentioned the intro scenes because another director who directed the Ungentlemanly Warfare film, Guy Ritchie, he's also really good at using music to set up a movie, but then it just carries on from there because Guy Ritchie executes music and
he's a good director.
Yeah, he's a great director.
No, he's an entertaining director.
He did both of the Sherlock Holmes films, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And he did Lock, Stock. He did Snatch.
Yeah, he has a.
He also did Rock and Roller.
I don't know. I think it's fun.
Another director that's like that is but I think he actually was a music video director. The one who did Suicide Squad, the first one.
Well, I mean, lots of them start out that way. I mean, I think.
Yeah, and there's no shame.
Start out in music.
No,
he couldn't have started out in music videos, did he? I don't know. Maybe it was commercials.
I mean, I grew up on
lots of directors start out in commercials and music videos. That's a huge starting point.
There's no shame in that. Like I look at I grew up on Guns N' Roses, and those were like some of the coolest things I'd ever seen in my life.
True.
Those videos. November Rain.
Strange. Yeah, I was just thinking of the flyover shot of Slash as soon as you said Guns N' Roses. Like, yep,
that is the iconic one from them. But yeah, so who are we gonna get to direct the Jake Sunrise music video?
Man.
More importantly, who is doing the music for it?
That's me.
Well,
I do the music.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Or at least that's me on the trailer. I don't know if I could do an entire movie. Although I am working on like a side project where I'm trying to do like a web comic. So it's like a scroll, but I already wrote music for like the first 15 minutes. And I want to eventually get voice actors. And I want it to just have like voice acting and have like the dialogue bubbles pop up. I don't want it to really be animated, but I want it to sort of be like an auto scroll where I'm doing all the music for it. But like one issue would be like 30 minutes worth of music. And I've only done 10 and I'm like, oh geez, this would be exhausting.
Well, yeah, just doing like all the elements to it. I know that Jake Sunrise trailer that I obviously cut that from. That's a cool trailer. To my understanding, that was just like you.
Yeah, I clipped all that together and edited it all together. I went to art school for a year and dropped out. So I have a little bit of graphic design skills. I'm just familiar with like Adobe products pretty much.
I got an engineering degree and I spent a year in film school. I've made more money off the year in film school than I have off the actual degree. So
never know how things are going to turn out, right?
No, you don't.
That's why, like, I'm a teacher in my day job, and like the worst question is when they're like, "When am I going to use this?" I'm like, "You don't know." And I was like, "And most adults, don't know either because they only know how to do their job. They don't know how to do any other job. They think they might know how to do certain other jobs, but they haven't done it. They don't know how to do other jobs. Like, I have no clue what it's like being a librarian.
Yeah.
I have no clue what it's like being a gym teacher. That's drastically different than being a classroom teacher, or even like a college professor. You know, like, and I've done a bunch of different jobs. I've hopped around to like different gigs when I was younger, but like, yeah, just learn stuff. Why not just like be intellectually curious? I don't know why that's so hard. I don't know.
So I guess to get us back to Jake Sunrise, because I mean that Kickstarter just ended, so it's too bad.
Well, that's all right. I'm always looking for more and more. I mean, for me, you know, like the Kickstarter, like I was thinking about it earlier today that like, you know, like Eric July doesn't use Kickstarter, right? Like he does his on his own website, and like I have no issue.
Anything.
That's where I have an issue is that if he uses the numbers to promote it, then that's kind of sketchy. But hands down, everyone in a perfect world would just have you come to my website, not give Kickstarter 5%. You know, like, of course, like that's a smart move. He already has his fan base. He doesn't need them to go through Kickstarter to give him money. You know, like, and that's something that a lot of small creators like me, like, you know, fortunately or unfortunately, most people in my personal life aren't the kind of people that would buy one of my comics. So like, I'm not getting a ton of financial support from people I know. It's maybe like 3 or 4. So most of the money I'm getting is from the internet, you know, from people I've just shown it to. And that's just me trying to promote. I'm not a marketer at all, just trying to show it to people. But if you're like a small creator and most of the money you're getting is from people you know personally, you should just do it through your own website. Like, why would you give 5% to Kickstarter? You know what I mean? Like, they're not helping you promote it. They're just like a platform. They're not even ensuring that the consumer is going to get their product. Right? Like, there's Kickstarter, and there's Kickstarters of people whose art I love, and I still stand by their stuff. That I bought theirs when I was doing my first Kickstarter and still haven't gotten it after I'm now shipping out my 3rd one now. Oh, wow. And my 3rd one is actually my 4th one. My 3rd one was like a failure and I redid it. So my 4th one's a redo of the 3rd one. Okay. So you know what I mean? That like that much time's passed. It's been like a year and a half and I still haven't gotten it from them. But these are small dudes where like the only reason I trust it is it's not because they have a YouTube channel that I follow. It's because I've seen them in other comic creator groups. I kind of have a sense of who they are. Like, they're working on it. It's coming. You know what I mean? Like,
these things take time. Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't give them like a ton of money. I didn't throw like $90 so I can get all like variant covers. It was just like, here's $20 because I like to back other creators and but I can't back you with $50. You know what I mean? But most of them I do want it in my hand because that's just how I am. Maybe I'm old school. But mostly small creators, I want to hold it in my hand. And if I like the story, I'll back multiple campaigns. Or if I just feel like they need extra support. I don't know. I'm more of like an underdog type. If I see that like you're already funded, I'm less likely to back you. That's my approach. You know?
I see that argument for sure.
And it's not because I think I'll actually have to pay. You know, it's just because like I want to, you know, there's nothing that hurts more than having it not go through. You know, feeling like, but that's the thing is I would say to anyone who does one that fails, man, like it's nothing on your product. I've seen things that, and you know, I'm not the artist. I've seen things where the drawings were a third of the quality of the stuff that I have in my books. And those guys raise 5 times what I raise. A lot of it's just about marketing and networking. So like, if you do something and nobody's into it, it's not because nobody's into it. You just haven't gotten it out there yet to the right people. And that's hard. And it might be impossible, but it's not because what you have sucks. It might suck. I don't know. But whether or not your thing sucks has nothing to do if you find your audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Eric July, in theory, I believe his numbers made like $4 million on ISOM. ISOM sucks. I mean, it's all subjective, but ISOM sucks.
It does. Did you know that there was a black cowboy named Isom Dark? And I at first I had assumed that that's what he named it after.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, the first cowboys, and that's the thing is like, I don't know, fucking call me like a snowflake or woke or whatever. But like, ever since I learned what cowboy means, like I struggled to like use it because it started being used because after the Civil War ended, you know, there were Jim Crow laws and all that kind of stuff, and people were pushed out of the South anyway. So a lot of them wound up in Texas, and they wound up working as cowhands. And if you were a white person, you were called a cowhand, and if you were a black person, you were a cowboy, because it was like, hey, boy.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I did not know that either.
And that's where that term comes from. And between them and the fact that like the first real European style horse wrangling or whatever you want to call it was, you know, Spanish Americans. It wasn't like European. It wasn't English. It was more the Spanish down south. So that's where you have like the vaqueros. And I think that's probably part of the reason maybe why like Jake Sunrise is Hispanic, because I don't know, because that's what a real cowboy is. Like, it's not necessarily a white guy. Like, and also too, like, what is a cowboy? Like, we're thinking more gunslinger, I think, when we talk about cowboys.
No, there's definitely a modern version of the word for sure.
Yeah, and sure, some cowboys were gunslingers, certainly.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm a history teacher, so I wouldn't be like writing a book like this if I didn't know the history. I'm not necessarily listening to all the history. I'm taking the parts of it that I want, because I'm more, I think of myself more of like an artist than a historian. But
I mean,
I know
felt Jake Sunrise was very historically accurate, especially with the werewolves and the
right. And I even like so like some things will get added because of mistakes. Like, for example, there's like a splash page in the first issue where Jake shoots a bunch of the cannibal mutant hillbillies as they're coming in. And, you know, I work with the guy I was going to have on, Randy, and he is so good at catching technical stuff. So like, I always show him the other artist's stuff, and he's been helping me out the whole time. He did the logo, not even because I asked him to, because he thought that he liked his better than the one that was there before. And I still use the other one on the black and white issue covers. But he did that logo without me even asking. And I was just like, dude,
that is cool.
That logo is fire. So he does now the logos. Now every issue has its own logo that he made. That's just like a fire logo. Like, because he was that good at the logos, I was like, I got to keep having you do logos.
Nice.
And so like, you know, and he was like, hey, dude, look at this like splash page. The guy fires his gun like 8 times. And I was like, damn it, because it's a revolver.
Yeah.
And I was like, and on top, to make matters worse, the point of that page is that he runs out of ammo and the last 2 guys jump him or whatever. So I was like, shit. And so maybe he fires like 8 times or something. And so I was like, okay, well, he has an 8 shooter. I was like, whatever.
Sure.
And so there's like a scene, and so he flips open his, like, you know, the revolver. I don't know what it's called, the cartridge. I'm an idiot with guns.
I believe that's what they would
call the reload. That's what you would call it on a revolver, right? I don't know.
Barrel? Like what the barrel?
No,
yeah, the barrel. Well, no, it's the
no, the barrels were
the cylinder. Is it a cylinder? I don't know, man. I feel like an idiot for not knowing that.
It's the thing that holds the 8 bullets because it's an 8 shooter.
Yeah, it's the bullet holder thingy.
Yeah. That's a technical name.
Yes, it's the cylinder.
I want to say,
I just looked it up. It's the cylinder.
Okay.
And so he flips it open, and so I saw that like the artist was at least accurate in putting 6 holes. So I was like, damn it. So I just like copied and pasted the holes and like rotated and added 2 more. So like in the final
edit, custom made gun.
Yeah, and like there was another one where I think in that same issue where he didn't have like his pouch, like he has a satchel, and he missed it in one panel. So I went back and used the flats, which is like the pre-layering. I don't know if you guys know what a flatter does. They go in and they angle out everything. So like his job is to make that house look like a house. He like outlines the edge and colors it, but he doesn't actually put the final colors. He doesn't put any lighting or anything. And like he'll outline the ground and the sky in the background. And he had outlined the pouch. So I used the flats to isolate pencil layers too. You can use the flats to then like go to the pencil layer and cut that out instead. So I took a satchel from a previous page and like put it on top of him in the next one because it fit perfectly. I was like, oh, sweet. And like, to me, that's what being like an indie comic like creator is. It's like, when I get the issues, I repress every spine because like indie printers are notorious for like the comics bulge in the middle. Like they're not pressed enough. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like what they
Yes.
did is instead of
Yes.
pressing each page individually in half, they did the whole
Mhm.
book.
Mhm.
So it still kind of bubbles up like this, right?
Yeah.
So like I repress every one, like, you know, I
Right.
ship everything because I'm not shipping that much right now. I'm shipping like maybe 40 books max. You know what I mean? So I can do it myself. I don't need a warehouse.
Now,
Not that.
do you ship them with a board and in a bag?
Oh yeah, I do bag, board, and in Gemini,
that's
in
awesome.
Gemini mailers. They got to be in Gemini
Yes.
mailers.
That's
If
awesome. You.
Anytime I've got a comic that wasn't in a Gemini mailer, I could just see before I even opened it. I was like,
Oh,
this is iffy. But I'm a
Yeah.
little nervous because I'm shipping for the first time outside the U.S. Trying to use
Ooh.
something called Pirate Ship, which like reduces your costs drastically. It makes it from like $30 to $15. Because I've mailed some copies out. I mean, I mailed some to the colorist. He's in Argentina. To the flatterers in Indonesia. The penciler for the 3rd issue was in Italy, and I've mailed her a copy. And then the penciler from the 1st issue is in Indonesia too.
Okay.
There's a lot of good art coming out of Indonesia.
Okay.
And because of the exchange rate, like they make out pretty well on it. Although to be frank, right now the Argentina transfer rate is insane because they got like some libertarian kook in there. That's, I don't know. Some people are saying he's going to help the country, but like, I don't know. You're like, we're going to get out of this recession by shutting down all the you know, like social services provided by the government.
It never seems like the best solution.
Oh wow, that's a strategy.
It sounds heartless and savage on paper, but it doesn't actually even work in practice.
Yeah, I can't imagine it.
Like, let's see, what did Bob say? The werewolf versus
Yeah.
oh, the werewolf versus Sasquatch fight was the most accurate detail in the whole series.
Yeah. Lots of people don't realize how accurate you got into the details of that fight. I mean,
so like, what I'm trying to do with like, because for me, the universe or whatever is called Low Midnight of the Mind. It was just going to be Low Midnight, but there's already a werewolf love story romance novel called Low Midnight. And I already had the idea, and then I looked it up to see if somebody else had it, and they did. So this one's Low Midnight of the Mind. I hope people just call it Low Midnight if people ever call it anything. And I want to do like, for me, like the Wild West is like a horror story. You know what I mean? Like it's the destruction of an entire people who had already been like pushed out of like a third of maybe a fifth of the country. You know, like a lot of those people in Kansas had already been pushed out of east of the Mississippi, and the Trail of Tears and stuff like that. And
you do need to be careful with this wokeness. I mean, you know, as we all know, too much wokeness is basic human empathy. But
I mean, it's a reality, right? Like it's just and the fact that the U.S. just can't come to terms with it. A book I just started reading, but then of course you look up the author, right? So it's called The Indigenous Peoples History of the United States. It's like a pretty popular book, I guess, among some people. And so of course I'm like, I read the intro and I'm like, I should look up the author. And of course, you know, she claimed to have Native heritage and didn't. It's just a white lady. But to be fair, I think she might have been adopted or told that by her parents or something like that. Like it wasn't something she was necessarily trying to use to her advantage. It was more just something she grew up thinking. So it's a little shitty to have a book called The Indigenous Peoples History of the United States written by a white person who's claiming heritage. But I'm also just going to, but a lot of people still recommend it. So, I mean, sometimes the contents can be separated from the author, and it's not even that the author's a bad person. If it was just like, you know, a childhood myth. I had that childhood myth. I remember my grandma telling me, and I'm probably sure I believed it until I was like 15 or 20, that like, oh, you're like 1% Native American. Like, I think so many, but that's part of it. That is even still part of the story of trying to forget what we did or justify what we did. Like she describes in the intro how, you know, a social studies textbook that's trying to be woke, right, will have like the like inside the cover you see like a Native American woman weaving, and she's weaving an American flag. And like she said, she was trying to explain to them why that was offensive, and they were just like, but it's a real photograph. And she's like, yeah, but
Yeah.
they will weave what you pay the money for. They get paid by commission, right?
Yeah.
Like it could be SpongeBob or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like offensive to have that. And it's this idea of like trying to pull Native Americans into the story of America. Like even that is something, no, like you can't do that. Like don't do that. Like if they individually, of course, want to be war heroes for the American military, fine. Like you could do whatever. Like I don't judge people who come from marginalized classes that like try to, you know, join the club necessarily. That's not for me to judge, at least in my given my position. Like my family's done, you know, oppression across 2 continents. My dad's from South Africa. And like he met my ancestor met his wife before he went down there in the Caribbean. Which is probably its own interesting story because she was Jewish. So she probably came from Brazil after they got pushed out when the Portuguese king got pushed out of Portugal and then pushed out the Jews. A lot of them went to the Caribbean. But you know, like a lot of this, it's all that idea of like, it's a horror story. Like just imperialism and colonialism is just like it's an utter horror story. Just across the board, bringing in slave labor, and even how they treated the people that they sent over here to die. You know, like I'm sure that when we go into space, it's not going to be the rich people who go there first. It's going to be poor people who go there to die. I don't know if you saw The Expanse.
Yeah.
It'd be like the belt workers.
I love The Expanse.
Right? It'd be like the belt workers.
Yeah.
Where like the rich people get to stay on Earth, man.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where the rich people stay.
We literally evolved for this place to be paradise for us.
Yeah.
You know, like we want
go get
off.
Resources for us.
Yeah. And like that's the same thing they did with the United States. They threw poor European bodies at this country until they stuck. The first few died. Jamestown had cannibalism, you know, like it was a horror show. They didn't show up at the right time of year, which shows like who was planning this. Like, did they even care about the people who were going to land there? It probably wasn't the people landing there who made the plans, because they should know like, yo, you're going to land there in the winter, man. Like, what are you doing for food and stuff? And it was the same when they sent people out west. The whole justification for giving. You ever see the movie Far and Away with Tom Cruise?
God, I saw it in theaters
years
back in the
ago.
day, so it's been a while.
I want to go back and watch that now that I have like a very different opinion of like settler colonialism.
Yeah.
But even still, like you can't, nobody's trying to take away the story of like those poor Europeans that were trying to make something better for themselves. Like they couldn't necessarily understand the full expanse of what was going on, because the whole goal was to get them settled out there so that we could justify bringing the military out there to protect certain things, because it wouldn't look good to just say we're sending the military out there to protect rich guys who are extracting resources from like the mountains, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So they had to come up with a different reason. So they had to push humans out there to face like the wilds. They didn't know how to farm, half of them. Half of them starved. And then of course they were encroaching on other people's territory. So the Native Americans were killing them. And you can't blame them for doing that either.
Yeah.
You know, like any of the violent resistance that Native Americans did to me is like, no, I wouldn't necessarily say 100% justified.
Not to you, but like, you know, the
oh, not to me personally. I mean, like in my opinion. I mean,
absolutely.
The white European people.
I mean, I'm not going to say them slaughtering like, you know, little colonist children is justified, but I can understand it. I can certainly
it's one of those things where it's like when they're like, you know, I mean, we have castle laws. I mean, back then, I mean, that would be essentially us doing castle shit against the Native Americans. That was their place, and we're just like, hey, we're moving in no matter what you say. And you know, they object. I kind of get why they might be kind of aggressive.
Well, and even before, like, you look at why were there poor Europeans coming? Why were they leaving Europe? Nobody likes to leave home, and it's like, well, see, what happened was the monarchy saw that there were all these rich merchants that suddenly had just as much or more money than them, and they're like, yo, what are these guys doing? Like, I got my like peasants working the land, and I don't have that stuff. So they were like, oh, so I'm gonna fire all my workers. You guys are fucked. Go fuck off, and I go work in the cities or whatever. And then I'm gonna buy a bunch of sheep, and I'm just going to hire a few shepherd, and we're going to sell the wool to Asia. Like that, we're going to become merchants ourselves, and that's where capitalism was born. You know, like capitalism was born just from that very kind of subtle notion of the lords realizing they could make more money, just like by doing stuff like that, or just taking their wealth and investing in the concerns of others, and then taking a cut back. You know, or even just that's where insurance companies came from, because not all those shipments would ever get there. True. And that all like trickles down to like, you know, Native American slaughter across the continent. And you look at how the Chinese, because, you know, I started looking into, well, how come there was so many Chinese railroad builders? What were they fleeing from? And it was because England had done some opium wars, because China was like, yo, we don't want to sell opium anymore. We want to make it illegal. And England was like, we're making too much money off your opium. I'm afraid you can't do that. And so they went to war with China to force them to keep buying opium. And they just like made so, and the reason that opium became so addictive at that time period was because it started getting mixed with tobacco. Tobacco comes from the Americas. So it all circles back around the world. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's just this connected horror show of warfare and addiction. And so like Jake Sunrise has like,
I was about to say, are these spoilers for Jake Sunrise?
Right. So like Jake Sunrise has like a pouch on his neck, right?
Yeah.
And like, I don't know if it's a spoiler or not, because I don't ever necessarily say it blatantly, but he uses opium to kind of keep his lycanthropy in control. But that's never really explicitly stated. He just has this pouch, and maybe in some scenes when he takes the pouch off, that's when you know it's like, it's time to go, because part of addiction is the mental part, right? Like having it there, he knows he's in control. But when he takes it off, it's time to, and there's a scene in the third issue where he is in an opium den. And that there's a sign on the building that says opium den. So,
getting a quick refill now.
You don't see him smoking it. You see him smoking cigarettes. So if you don't want your little children reading comics with cigarettes, but otherwise I do try to write these so that, like, you know, anyone can read it. Like, because I'm a teacher, you know, if my students picked it up, like, I wouldn't be like horrified that they were reading it. I think that some people lean into foul language, like the way people lean into nudity or like excessive violence. It's kind of a crutch.
Well,
if you know,
you know, I not that I want to name anybody who does that, but
right, like, oh, I could,
like, I enjoy a lot of his stuff, but man, I swear he doesn't really, like, he does edginess without any point.
Well, or he'll use like rape just as like a really quick and easy little like conflict, because it's you know that people are gonna, you know, be invested in that. Whereas like in my first issue, there's an allusion to it.
Yeah,
you know, it's inferred that it could happen, but it doesn't happen, and the woman's in total control of that situation. You know, and there's another scene kind of like that in issue 5, but with that, even it's funny because the initial time I wrote that, I showed it to the editor, and it's like, dude, that guy can read my mind. I love working with him. Leland Berg, Lee is awesome, and like I found him because I had read a comment he had written on another indie creator's like post of their stuff, was, what do you think of these pages? And he actually read the guy's pages, and his comment was so thoughtful that I just direct messaged him, and I was like, do you do editor stuff? And he was like, yeah. I was like, I want you. I was like, he was that good. And he knew, he could see that I was trying to write this scene without having to rely on like a rape scene. And he was like, I know you don't want to. He's like, but if you do this, maybe, you know, you can get a little bit more out of it. So, so it was the only reason I even went that far was because I had someone like him who I trust that was like, no, like, you can do it to this point without it feeling too gimmicky. Or that's how I try to think of it. I try to just think of it as gimmicky, because otherwise I get too pissed at people for doing it.
No,
you know, if I
it's
take
one
it
of those
any
things
more
where I'm
seriously.
cool with edginess. I think Garth Ennis like knows how to do edginess, where like, yeah, it's excessive and it's obviously there for the point of being edgy, but like it flows and it works. And then there's people who just force it. What was that?
Have you ever read Transmetropolitan?
No, I haven't.
Have you heard of it?
I have heard of it. I've seen ads for it, but yeah,
It's
I've not read it myself.
it's like Hunter S. Thompson in the future.
Really?
Yes, it's amazing.
It's got me way more interested in it than the
Amazing.
ads ever did.
I read it in the 90s, and I'm trying to remember who the author was, and it's edgy as hell. But it's not. It's Warren Ellis. But it's his 97 to 2002 stuff. I think that's where he should have kept it. But like, I think his edginess only works if there's a story to wrap around it. But you know, when he just does it for its own sake, which is I think where he's at, you know, it's almost like he's just like, oh, this is what people respond to.
So who would you say are some of your favorite comic writers? If we're kind of
Alan Moore. I know that's like so trite at this point, but like,
well, Watchmen is so goddamn good.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first read it, I just liked the story, and then I started like really looking at it and looking at other people who point out how like the first and last panel of every issue mirrors each other. The first panel of the first issue mirrors the last panel of the last issue. There's scenes where like there's a scene, I can't remember where it is in the book, where there's like a tea kettle boiling. And what they're saying, they'll say stuff like, I feel like I'm trapped in a fog, and like the panel will show like the steam coming off of the tea kettle. Like, it's just pure genius. Like, just pure, utter genius. And not that he hasn't done some dog shit books.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like every artist has a few. Like, if you do enough, you will have a couple stinkers. But
yeah, and you should just count yourself fortunate enough that people are paying you to, like, you know, keep swinging. That's like my biggest thing. Like, if I can get people to eventually pay me enough to pay the artists, I'd do it for free. Like, I have a job.
Hey,
I can write. Writing one issue a month is not a full-time job. And not that that's what I'm doing. I'm putting out like 6 over the course of 3 years. So what is that? Like,
it's a bit easier, but yeah,
it's much easier.
Still, like I will say, I've only read the first 2 so far. I'm excited to get like physical copies of 3 and 4 and actually read those, because I don't know, I'm old school. I like the physical copies.
Yeah,
me too.
But yeah, I like issue 1. I really liked. Then issue 2, I fucking loved that one. Yeah, the whole like he encounters the other bounty hunter, and oh my god, that was such a good story. Like what kind of inspired like a lot of this stuff?
Well, me and you know, my best friend from high school, he originally came up with the idea of like this Hispanic werewolf cowboy named Jake Sunrise. And then when I was trying to think of how to write him, I couldn't really think of what he would sound like. And at the time, I was way more comfortable with exposition than with dialogue. And so I was like, what if he doesn't talk? And he liked that idea. And I was like, yeah, he's like, he's never going to talk. And if he ever does talk, it's going to be maybe off camera, and the scene will start with someone responding to something he said. Like,
yeah, no, I was thinking like you're kind of building it up so he's either never going to talk, or like he gets the final line of the book and that's it.
Right. Or like I also thought of doing stuff like Max and Ruby. I don't know if you ever watched that show. The same buddy, I used to like watch his kids too. And I'd watch Max and Ruby with them, and it's like these 2 little bunnies. It's like a kid show, and the younger one is Max, and he's like beginning and the end of every episode, and the context is different.
Okay.
Did I cut out there?
Yeah, a little.
Oh, I thought it was me, so I was just rolling with it.
I think you might have, yeah, Dean.
I don't know who that was. Oh, it's. Let me see where all that is sync.
Uh-oh.
Are we good?
Yeah.
I think we're good right now.
Yeah, I think we're good. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can hear me, right? Sweet.
Yes.
All right, cool.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. So like there's this children's cartoon where like the little brother only says one thing at the beginning and the end of episode. He says the same word, but it's in a different context. That could be a fun like little technique to play with, you know?
Yeah.
But for me, the idea is like the horror element is like very much like a metaphor. Like that's why that's what I have an interest in horror. You know, it's not necessarily in like scaring people, although I do think that's fun to learn how to like play with people's emotions through story writing in different ways. But for me, it's more about like the metaphor of like what is a werewolf, you know, like what is, and like why are people into it? And you know, and like it's interesting because now that I'm out there like trying to find werewolf fan bases, I'm starting to see more directly or trying to piece together what do people get out of it. Like for some people, it's like a very sexual thing. For other people, it's more about anger.
Okay.
You know, it's more just like they have feelings of anger that they wish they could just like burst out like
and and that's the outlet for them.
For some people, it's like self-hatred, like hating something inside of themselves.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love horror very much, and I always get asked like, what is it about it that you love? Like, why would you watch that crap? Or, you know, like a lot of it is like, well, mostly it's like I kind of love that state of just, you know, you're watching something, you know, it's what to expect, but it's that little bit of unknown, like what's coming, what's happening. The suspense is what I love the most. And like all the other stuff, the thrills of it, like the slasher ones are fun because they can be really tacky and bad or just genuinely enjoyable. The monster ones are probably my favorite. The old Universal are like still standard and just great filmmaking.
Dude, like Frankenstein from what, 1932 or whatever?
Yeah.
Brilliant filmmaking behind that. Oh my god.
I am happy that I'm
like
happy.
A modern movie.
I'm happy that I got you to watch that a couple Halloweens ago.
Yeah,
that was the first thing you said to me.
I was so
You were
amazed how well made that movie was. It's like, holy shit,
like,
this is a 32 movie.
I haven't seen it.
Oh wow.
It's so well made. It's shocking.
So much of it is so incredible because, well, with Universal, they also did Phantom of the Opera. No sinning, just kind of the more heinous story. They shot like in a real opera house. So you see this giant crane shot coming down on a big grand like stage with curtain and everything. It's like, that's a set. Like, holy shit. Amazing filmmaking. But you know, everything's now done CGI, so that greatness can't be captured.
But, I mean, I think that's really
stress. I actually don't have an issue with CGI at all. But
I don't either. Yeah,
it needs to be used only when necessary.
Yeah,
and it should be union work.
Yes, absolutely, very much so.
That's the only reason why. That's the reason why studios were leaning into it.
Yeah, that's why they went into it, because they're not unionized and they need.
Yeah, and all those laborers who build all those sets are, because they're smart.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, because they got in there and got the laws in before the brain worm of anti-unionism got into the heads of Americans.
Yeah. That brain worm is frustrating as hell.
Yeah, I mean, I would love, because you know, I think you could probably do some amazing things. And I know, like, for example, I live in New Jersey, that Netflix just bought an old military base that they're going to turn into a film studio.
Okay.
And it looks like that's got to be mostly for, like, did you see how they filmed at most of maybe Mandalorian, where it's like they're just in a room with like a screen that's like 3/4 of the way around them?
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm sure that's what they're building that for, because I can't imagine that you would film like. There's no areas where you can set up like a fake little town or something, or whatever the hell you would do. And plus, they'll do most of that stuff on site anyway. If
it's a military base, I'm sure that there's like, if anything, they could turn the shooting ground into that, or
there can't be shooting on this military ground. It's surrounded by cities. I doubt it.
Oh, okay. One of those bases. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's really.
I was thinking
really
like old
there
airfield, like, you know. I was thinking like, you know, like an airfield outside of one of the national parks that your state has so many of, which is. I'm a fan of the national park system, and I just happen to look like, oh wow, holy shit!
Oh, for sure.
For sure. Got my mind thinking of the Dead Men Ride Again, and finding out that they actually built that town for that short movie.
Yeah.
Speaking of building towns, have you seen the old Popeye movie?
Yeah. And I think I know what you're going to say.
I want to say I have, but it's been a while. Holy
that
shit.
Town still exists,
and and tourism keeps it alive.
You can go.
I didn't even actually know it was a town. I thought
you could go
there. They built it
Oh
for they built it for the film.
Yeah, and it just
okay. Oh my god.
Yeah, I read something about that recently. Yeah, I guess like it was left
Whoa.
abandoned, and some people came in and decided like, no, we need to preserve this. And
Oh yeah,
now,
that's one of the weirdest movies, man.
yeah, just the
Oh, dude.
weirdest movie.
I don't know why more comic book reviewers don't review it. It's a comic movie.
It absolutely is a
Yeah,
comic
yeah.
movie.
I mean, how many comic movies
could
do
also
get
ar-
directed
well,
by Robert Altman of all people? I mean, it's such a
I mean,
weird, random anomaly of a movie.
I mean, I've seen all sorts of different comic movies, and that is the one and only musical one I have seen. There have been musical moments, sure, but not a full-fledged musical.
Well, we're getting Joker later this year.
That's true.
Well, I mean, then
I
you
haven't
know,
seen. I'm looking at the comments. I haven't seen Bad Moon Rising. I'm realizing just how many werewolf movies I haven't seen now that I'm in all these different werewolf groups. That like, they just never crossed my radar.
Well,
at all.
you should absolutely watch the old Universal original, The Wolfman. Like,
See, those-
absolutely watch.
Well,
it.
I didn't see the original. I saw the remake. That was it. Jack Nicholson.
I think there was two. There was two attempts at that,
And there was another one with, was it Benicio del Toro?
Yes.
I've seen both of those.
Oh, you should see the original.
I gotta see.
I'm
it
trying
now.
to remember. Like, I haven't seen any of those. I probably should. But what was it, John Wayne?
Bad Moon Rising's a song.
Yeah, it is. Creedence Clearwater.
There's a
American
movie called The
Werewolf in
Howling,
London.
for example. Apparently, The Howling is the best werewolf movie. I haven't
The
seen
Howling, yes, I've heard that too.
it. I haven't seen it. Also, people like Dog Soldiers, but I'm not, from the sounds of it, I'm not sure it's a movie I would enjoy per se.
I did not like
Haven't
Dog
seen it.
Soldiers. I thought it was kind of dumb.
Yeah.
There's
And
also
plus-
What was your vote on, Bobby?
there's also the American Werewolf in London. That one is.
That's what I was about ready to bring up because that's the one
Yeah.
I've definitely seen. That one is one that is practical effects and stuff.
Oh my
Early
gosh.
John Landis movie. Somebody typically known for comedies did a horror
For
movie.
like
It's pretty
yeah,
good.
for the time it came out, that is like groundbreaking physical effects and practical. It was,
Yes.
and it's still like it looks a little funny today, but
Mhm.
I still appreciate the time and everything that went into that because, yeah, the practical effects make movies just way better.
It does. You can, because
I forgot.
there's,
He has the
there's a weight to it.
Yeah,
and then he has the dead friend that haunts him, and it's obvious that Tom Cruise
Who
the mummy
slowly
ripped
is-
off that idea and did
yeah.
a
Who
good
slowly
job
is
with
more
it.
decaying each time he sees him.
Yeah,
And
yes,
like
yes.
yeah, the
It's
makeup on
actually
it is
creative in that
great.
movie.
Yeah, it's very creative for that.
I feel like Werewolf by Night copied that. Because I remember reading, I don't know if I've seen American Werewolf in London, maybe just clips of it, but I read the comic Werewolf by Night as a kid, or at least the parts that were in, there was a comic called Marvel Comics Presents, and it was typically like a Wolverine story in the front and then 3 other randos in the back, like superheroes like Stingray that you've never heard of. Or Comet Man was another one. And that Comet Man story, that Comet Man story was weird as hell. I remember reading it as a kid, and it was just like I wasn't getting it. It was definitely not for kids. Like I just couldn't understand it. But I do remember there was a scene in the Werewolf by Night ones where like he's talking to his dead friend as a ghost or something.
Yeah,
Maybe. I wouldn't surprise me if it took inspiration because that movie was. I mean, there's a reason why it was on my watch list. I was like, I should probably check this out. I think the only reason I hesitated was because I'm not used to John Landis not doing a goofy comedy, and it worked.
See,
it's
I'm more-
almost so good we can forgive him for his terrible son.
No, well, yeah, and then like the comedy parts, you remember, oh yeah, John Landis, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true. There is a lighter element to it.
That's even in the trailers, right? You can even see in the trailers that there's scenes that are supposed to be funny for American Werewolf.
I don't remember the trailers for it, but I will,
because I think that's all I've seen of it. Really, is just
Because I think his friend has some quips sometimes, and I think there's a few of those in the trailer. Maybe it's been a while since I've seen the trailer.
Oh, Chuck was saying that was what landed the gig of directing Thriller, which would make sense.
Yeah.
Oh, Pink Bunny knows who Comet Man is. Nice.
Hey.
The story, and it was pretty interesting art too. I mean, not the front wasn't. The front was often Liefeld doing Wolverine, which is like the last place I really want him. Because his characters are very much clean cut. I think it honestly, I think it was his dynamism in the panels, like how he was the poses he was trying to get, the camera angles he was trying to get, and same thing with Todd McFarlane. Like they didn't always nail it, but they were trying these like unique, interesting poses and angles that I think a lot of other people hadn't really played around with. Probably because they knew they couldn't do it.
I just want to add that Todd McFarlane, I prefer much more to.
Oh, me too. It's I hate to compare them, but like they just have that in common in the sense that they were going for these like dynamic poses. Todd McFarlane could actually pull it off most of the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Todd McFarlane also had the advantage of spending some time writing Spider-Man, and Spider-Man's supposed to be super agile, so he's drawing him in these weird fucking poses. It's like, well, it's Spider-Man, okay.
Well, yeah,
I don't know if you've seen it. There's Matt with 4 T's. Have you heard of this guy?
No.
Uh-oh. Are we frozen?
No.
No, I don't think so. Are you frozen? Did we lose?
Yep.
Okay.
We're not. I was. I felt like I was.
Okay.
I got to reload. There we go. So shit, I lost my train of thought.
Matt with 4 T's.
Yes.
What were we just talking? Oh, yes, Matt with 4 T's. If you've never seen it, he's doing some great mini documentaries on comic book artists.
Okay.
He did one on Todd McFarlane that was amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't know that Todd McFarlane he invented the spirally the webs. That was him. He was the first person that drew the webs that way.
Nice. I actually didn't know that.
No, I didn't either.
And speaking, going back to your earlier question, my inspirations besides Alan Moore, like ElfQuest, Wendy and Richard Pinney, like especially now that I'm trying to do indie books, they're huge. Those guys must have been rock stars to be able to pull off what they did. They just did it all by themselves.
Wow.
And that's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and it's an amazing comic. If you've never read it, I highly suggest it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, your Kickstarter is done. Where can people find your stuff?
You can go to my website, picturebooksproductions.com. And you can find anything there, and I see the orders and I ship them out myself. So I mean, and you just pay through PayPal. Like it's pretty straightforward. And all of my stuff gets shipped in like Gemini mailers. Yeah, and it's cool. Like I set up the website. Right now we just have 2 books. We had that third one I was telling you about I'm working on. It's trying to be like a web comic with like a musical web comic is kind of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That story is much different. Cosmo Natalia is very different than Jake Sunrise. It's lighter, it's funnier, it has a lot of pop culture references.
I haven't officially read it, but I have leafed through it, and I'm gonna guess you've seen Barbarella, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, it's very much Barbarella.
Nothing
it's
wrong.
Very much Barbarella. It's Flash Gordon and Barbarella with a little bit of, the coolest thing was Randy. He's the same guy that did the logo for Jake Sunrise. He told me he had a story for a Soviet cosmonaut who goes to Planet X, whatever, but is in cryosleep. So when she comes out of cryosleep, Soviet Union's not around anymore. And they were supposed to wake her up, but they didn't. So she was in cryosleep longer than she was supposed to be. And the Americans are there now because they have modern technology. And they see her and she wakes, like the alarms go off and she wakes up because the Americans show up. And that sold me on the whole idea. I was like, oh, that alone is pretty cool.
That is very
Because then what's
cool.
it going to be like when she tries to go home, right? Like, and then he had these idea of like these reptilian aliens. And I know people and have read into some conspiracy theories that like there's all these reptilians at war with these funguses. It's kind of very much who's the guy that did all the experiments with acid? Timothy Leary, maybe?
Yes. Yes, it
had
was
this whole theory that like the dinosaurs were actually killed by asteroids that came from the Kuiper Belt because there's a fungal alien race there that wanted to destroy the reptilians because there's like a battle. It almost also kind of sounds a little bit like Scientology.
a little bit.
And so I kind of took that idea and kind of blended that in. So like throughout the first issue, she starts kind of hallucinating. and it turns out that the whole planet is just like this giant sentient fungus. And later on in the series, you start to find, actually, I think it's maybe in the second issue, it's through exposition though. You find out that like the reptilian species is trying to harvest that because they use it to like light speed travel, like to different galaxies. But they have to harvest this mushroom that's starting to become sentient on its own. And so that's kind of something I played with. Plus, I found the name of a mushroom that was called. So, like, and this is where some of the stories start to overlap, right? Because Jake Sunrise's son is also implemented in the villain of Cosmo Natalia. He wears it that same symbol as a necklace, and her dog that she has a hallucination of, his name, the translation means sunrise.
So are these supposed to be in the same universe?
No, but that doesn't mean they're not connected, right?
Okay.
Because I have this vision I'll probably never get to of like not necessarily a multiverse, but like an interdimensional connection where it's not like I'm less interested in what is a version of me like in a different galaxy or a different universe with different choices. And I'm more interested in what if just the rules of that universe were totally different, like just completely different. One universe has, vampires and werewolves. One universe doesn't. One universe, like I would rather play universes in that sense of like having different universes that are just totally different than each other, where it's not that it's the same person in a different universe. So I might start playing with ideas like that. Because also too, the name of the mushroom is Pink Disco, which I just thought was pretty sweet when I found that there was a mushroom called Pink Disco. But I picked it because the Latin name had the word Wakefield in it, which is gonna in a later story be Jake's alternate. That's his alternate name is Jake Wakefield.
Okay.
Because he winds up working with a guy named Baker later, and I'm childish, and I like the idea of having guys named Wake and Bake.
Yeah, it's got what I took me way too long.
And that's not even my original idea. I got that idea from playing Red Dead Redemption, right? Like you can get a wagon in Red Dead Online, and it's called Wakefield and Bakeman. And then I started playing with a dude online, and his character's name was Baker. So I was like, well, if you're going to be Baker, I'll be Wakeman.
I also laughed hysterically when I read that name on Red Dead Online.
Yeah.
I was just like,
I didn't notice it at first.
Marvelous. I was playing with a friend of mine who had already got it. And he's like, I want you to take some time and read that catalog. I'm like, okay, what? Oh. And just erupted into laughter. The fun thing we like to do when people
there's even something it says underneath it.
Oh, sorry, what
would you say?
Oh, you would cut out there that you said it says something else underneath it.
Yeah, it's something like there's nothing like fresh baked goods in the morning or something like that.
Yeah, that catalog has some funny zingers if you actually take the time and read it. So do the newspapers.
And this is an example of the Chuds not getting it. The Chuds will play a game like Red Dead and they think that it's all pro-American. And it's like, oh, buddy, no.
Let me tell you about the side mission where you help the natives. And
right, like
pretty awesome shit, actually.
It's like, who do you think the bad guys are? And like, as I'm starting, because my goal is I would like to turn Low Midnight into like having other writers and artists come in and write their own characters that exist in the same universe. But the trouble is, a lot of people I find that are interested in wanting to do Westerns are very like pro-Western expansion. Like they're pro Pinkerton. They're pro Pinkerton. And I'm like, hey man, like I'm not writing the story where the sheriff's the good guy. That story's not happening. That's not what happens in my universe because that's not what I see in reality. I hate to be a jerk, but like
no.
It all depends on context, but yeah.
It depends on context.
I would love to. Yeah.
You could have a good story with a sheriff as a hero, but he definitely wouldn't be like pushing the company man that wants to come in town and like
no, the best way to do it would be like the rookie sheriff going in with
the deputy, the rookie deputy, the rookie deputy who sides with the known town crook.
And then it's also hard because it's going to be a story where the good guys lose, right? Like Western expansion is the story of the good guys losing.
Yeah.
True.
And so at the end of the day, like that's why I wanted to do it as a horror story.
Okay.
Or as a horror. It's and not that these stories are scary. If somebody's not into scary stories, these stories aren't really scary. At least I don't think they are. Right?
No,
like
I will
what do
say
you
the
think,
first
Bob?
two Jake Sunrise are just excellent, like Western stories.
Yeah, I enjoy
Yeah.
it.
And I
it was Western.
I'm way more comfy as a Western guy than as a horror guy.
Okay.
So I'm glad that you said that.
So did you draw any inspiration from like Western films for this?
100%. Once Upon a Time in the West.
Okay.
Hands down. And I think that's
been
also
on my to-watch list for a while.
Oh, dude, it's my buddy who kind of made the character Hispanic initially, but I mean, and it's Charles Bronson, who's not Hispanic, but he plays a Hispanic character in Once Upon a Time in the West.
Yeah, Bronson's great.
And he barely talks. So, after I came up with the idea that he wouldn't talk, I was like, oh, like, I got to watch that movie again. Because I remembered it. I was like, I watched it as a kid. My dad had me watch it. And that movie is perfect. It's a perfect film. The music, how it mixes. I think if you didn't have that movie, you wouldn't have had Star Wars the way it was. Because the way that he uses the leitmotifs, or however you pronounce it, like the music that fits the character, right?
Yeah.
That is in that movie. And I know it's in other stuff. It's been in operas and stuff going way, way back. But I mean, as far as in film, Once Upon a Time in the West really nailed that. And he just knew how to direct a scene. The story, if you watch the story and you're actually paying attention to what happens, it's all about that idea of like the rich guy coming out with his train and he wants your land. Like he wants to put his train tracks through your land. And you're like, no, actually, I saw that you were coming. So I'm actually going to build a town here so that your train track goes through my town. And then I can make money off your train track. And he's like, no, I want it for myself, Oh, and the main villain is not necessarily like the brains of the operation. He's more like the muscle. It's really quite fascinating because then like the reason the hero is after him has nothing to do with that story. It's totally unrelated that he like you've seen it, right, Bobby?
No, it's been a long time. But yes. Yeah, it has been a long time.
The hero isn't even trying to help the hero, like the people out of their situation. He's trying to get revenge for something totally unrelated that happened. So that's the kind of story I love, where it's like, because that's really what real life more amounts to. Like you can have ideas of going into it to do certain things, but usually you're just like reacting to life, a lot of times. And it's how you react to it that really matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah.
Anything you want to pitch, Dean?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you click on Jake Sunrise, then you can go to any of the issues, and the first and second issues. If you click on one of those, even though it says sold out, you can still click on it, and then you can just scroll down and read it yourself below there. Once it loads up. And it's also on Global Comics. I'm on the Duck web comics. I recommend all these sites to just read comics. Comic Fury, Tapas, Webtoons. Webtoons and Tapas, they're kind of too commercial for me. So I tend to go a different way. Oh, are the words cut off the top on there?
Oh God, yeah, they are actually a little bit. That's disappointing.
That doesn't go away. I can get rid of that black bar.
Yeah.
I found a service that does it for free.
Okay.
It could if you're zoomed in or out a certain amount. I found a service that could do it for free. So it also has like a sound effect. I don't know. You might have the page.
Yeah, I can hear it. I don't think it's broadcasting.
No, I think it's awful. I do not like the sound effect.
It's kind of interesting.
I'm sure I can find somebody who can show me how to do this. Like just embed certain stuff to do this yourself. But I want people to just be able to read it. Like that's my biggest thing. Like the first 6 issues. If I do any more after 6, it'll probably be because I could found out a way to get it to pay for itself. But I don't even care if the first 6 issues pay for themselves. I just want to do it anyway.
Cool.
I mostly just want to see it myself. And I think but then I want other people to see it, and then hopefully they'll think it's cool. Because I think that, like, there are more Western stories to be told, but we have to re-identify how we're telling Westerns and what we're trying to say with them. And it's not to say that Westerns haven't always been woke. You can go back and look at the Lone Ranger. If you look at the films, he was helping Native Americans. Like, that's what, if they made that movie today, they'd be like, oh, of course they're doing this. It's so woke. They have an agenda.
Oh, they'd probably get Johnny Depp to play Native American or something.
Again,
I don't know why we're not past that phase. I mean, you would have thought that.
Well,
you would have thought the final step would have been Short Circuit.
Oh, it goes back further. It's like
Short Circuit. It's so weird because like it's one of those things where it's like, God damn it, like he's doing such a caricature, and I'm sure Fisher Stevens would agree at this point, but like he's also a really likable guy.
Yeah.
I
was gonna say Mickey Rourke at Breakfast and Tiffany's.
Right.
That's what I was gonna say. Oh, it aged like milk.
Oh God.
Or a poo.
Or
a
poo,
fine
right?
milk.
Or a poo, yeah.
I mean, geez, wait, who was it? Was it Ben Kingsley played Gandhi?
Yeah.
Yes, won an Academy Award. It was a
Academy Award.
To say.
Oh God, I didn't know that.
He did.
Nobody cares, man. No one cares.
Yeah.
No, it's one of those things where it's like, I mean, I'll be blunt. I don't care about race swaps, but as long as it's the issue is, all the people complain about race swaps are like, it only goes one way. It's like, yeah, it traditionally always goes to the white guy. If it was equal, then I wouldn't care.
Factually,
I mean, the best guy. What about how come they never bring up Tilda Swinton?
Yes, that is a big one.
Yeah,
as the ancient one, right? Or do they think that that's woke because it was a caricature to begin with that they probably shouldn't have done in a film, right? Like, if they had translated,
there's a way to do the ancient one that would be pretty based, honestly,
without being, Orientalism.
Yeah. No, I mean the concept of the ancient one is actually kind of cool. I mean, just making him Tibetan is very cool, but
what I think is kind of screwed up. What about? Did you ever hear about when they did Iron Fist? They were going to cast the guy who he's in Falcon Winter Soldier, but he's also in Iron Fist as the drunk guy, as the drunk martial artist. Have you seen Iron Fist?
Yeah, God, it's been a while.
He's the dude who does he's the guy who does that awesome kind of like
that was like
drunken
a highlight of the series, if I remember.
And he's half, I want to say he's half Korean. And he's like, well, why can't I be Danny Rand? And they're like, well, we're looking for a white guy. He's like, I'm white. You know what I mean? And he's not wrong.
Yeah.
He's just like, I am white. One of my parents is white. Like, come on. And they're like, nah, we want like a white dude.
So, Iron Fist in concept has issues because it does feel like a character that should be Asian. It's definitely kind of the white savior idea, just in very concept.
If they had taken him, they could have done it.
They could have done a better job with it. There's lots of issues with that series that don't have to do with the casting of Finn Jones, I think was his name.
Finn Jones. He wasn't the worst. I just think that that's who they wanted the character to be. But I will say that show, if you just look at the story, don't look at the execution, the story is genius. Because at the beginning of the story, you hate the brother and you love the sister. And by the end of the season, it's the other way around. And that is not an easy thing to do.
And the brother is like, he's a dick, but like, you appreciate him at least.
And in the second season, he becomes like a hero, kind of.
Yeah, I do
especially
remember
by the
end. Second season more than the first season.
I mean, I think that's a really big accomplishment. It's hard to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to head on to the rest of the podcast.
Yes.
Dean, but anything else you want to say before we say
No.
goodbye?
No.
All right.
But I'm definitely going to still be in the chat.
All right. Cool. Well, thanks for stopping. We got
because I want to hear you
we got
shred.
movies.
I want to hear you shred Zack Snyder.
Oh no, Zack Snyder.
Not that I
do you want to sit in? I mean, do you want to sit in
No,
for Zack
no.
Snyder? I guess.
Oh,
You wanna-
I'll sit in the comments.
Okay. All right.
Because I think I'd rather be a spectator and listen to you.
No.
Thanks for having me on, man. Like, I really like your show. Like, it's coincidentally and fortuitously Dane's show. He doesn't always air it at the time I'm free to watch, but like yours is a lot of time always when I'm free. And I've been catching your show a lot, like ever since I saw you on the Initiative, and like I like it. And it was such a breath of fresh air to see someone reading actual comics who doesn't only do that. Because the only times I see people that read comics on YouTube, it's like that's all they do. And like for you to like just integrate a bit of that, I thought was really awesome.
Yeah,
so
no. Well, I mean, I don't know. Part of the point of integrating comics was also to be like, hey, you know, can you just pick up a random issue and just dive in, which I do frequently. Like, I'll just be like, this is a cool cover. I'm gonna grab that and see what happens.
Yeah, but you can't do that with American comics. That's why manga is selling better.
You can.
I'm just kidding. I'm just fucking with you.
You can actually. It's wild.
You can totally do, dude. That's how I got into comics. I picked up a random issue of X-Men that had Wolverine on the cover, you know, crucified in the middle of a story. I didn't know who the hell he was. I didn't know how the hell he got in the desert. I didn't know who the bad guys were, and I thought this is so cool.
Yeah, no. If I have extra money, I will just go to the comic book shop and just pick out like 3 books that have cool covers. That's it.
That's
like,
so cool.
Literally
Man.
judge a book by its cover.
It's cool to catch up after the fact.
Yeah.
I see what Bob wrote.
Yeah. Yes, that also happened.
Oh man.
Wait, what? John?
Yeah,
Wayne?
he did.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
I'm a history teacher,
I haven't
and
seen that one either. That is a famous one.
I've Googled pictures of Genghis Khan for history because I teach history, and I've seen that picture so many times. It's so bad.
Are you ever tempted to put it in a lesson? Though you really shouldn't.
Oh, I'm woke enough as a teacher.
I mean, we have a very famous James Bond movie where he turns Asian. Not questionable at all.
Some of the stuff they got away with in the 80s and 90s was wild, man.
And in the 60s was even wilder.
Yeah, I was about to say, guys. Yeah.
You know, that aside, Chaos, it's still my favorite Bond movie.
Oh, dude, that's the wild thing about that movie. It's entertaining. It's really racially insensitive, and kind of racist.
He does. But
my favorite Sean Connery movie is super.
He does it to
sexist,
blend in
incredibly sexist.
to an area because he's spying on a Spectre lab.
Do they actually put makeup, or do they get a different actor?
They just comb his hair down and kind of thicken the.
They give him slanty eyes
and tell him just to be like this.
Wait, who is that? Sean Connery?
Sean Connery.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's Sean Connery. He definitely has some spot of your stuff. Roger
the first thing
Moore
I'm doing when I get off here is I'm Googling a picture of that.
You only live twice. You only live twice. I mean, that aside, it's still like a great Bond movie.
It
has the hollowed out volcano, man. Donald Pleasance as the bad guy.
And you know the cool thing about something like James Bond that I think that a lot of fanboys just need to get out of their heads, just with IP in general, is like you can have a good James Bond movie that takes a grounded, serious approach and is amazing. And you could have a James Bond movie that's off the top, corny as shit, and it's amazing. Like that's what IP is good for.
Well, I mean, I loved Casino Royale because it was grounded, and then I loved the first half of Spectre because it was goofy. Like the first half of Spectre is almost like Daniel Craig doing a Sean Connery style James Bond with how goofy it gets.
Yeah,
right. Or at least who was it? No, not Timothy Dalton. Who was after that?
George Lazenby. No, not George Lazenby.
The guy in the 90s.
Pierce Brosnan.
Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, I get that from Pierce Brosnan.
You could have the seriousness of Goldeneye and then have kind of the out there moments of Tomorrow Never Dies.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the one that has the dude who played Nightcrawler? Alan Cummings?
No, that the Goldeneye is.
No, that's Goldeneye. Yeah,
that's Goldeneye, right? Goldeneye has some serious moments, but it's also goofy as shit.
Oh, it is like him busting through the wall in that tank. And then
where he's
driving
like,
down the
"I'm
village
invincible."
Yes.
Mhm.
In the video, in the 64 game, he did that. I shot him every time
Nice.
because I just knew I knew he was.
Nice.
No, boom. Just no. No, you're not.
Roger Moore's Bond. Yeah, Roger Moore's was also pretty campy. But
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to do that, and that's kind of what I tried
Oh,
to
yeah.
do with the different issues of Jake Sunrise. Is some of them are a little more cartoony. Like
Yeah.
the first issue is more of like almost like a straight action story. The second issue is more psychological.
Mhm.
The fourth issue is definitely way more psychological. But the third issue is more fun because it's from a
I'm
kid's
excited.
point of view. You know.
Yeah. Nice.
All right.
But
Awesome.
Good to have me on, Dean. We are going
Hell yeah.
to talk about Zack Snyder now.
Awesome, man. I'll meet you guys in the comments.
Guys, make sure to
All
check
right.
out Jake Sunrise. I posted a link. You can check
Sure.
out some of his books. The
Yeah,
Kickstarter's
check 'em
over,
out.
but you
They're
can still
great.
check out some of his books. I highly recommend them. I can't wait to read 3 and 4.
Thanks, man. Thanks so much. Take
Um,
it easy, guys.
Take it easy.
Later.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh yeah.
So Bobby, what
Yes.
was your favorite part of Rebel Moon?
The credits.
No shit.
Jesus.
Oh God.
Uh,
So like one thing I will give this thing credit for is I think visually this isn't as insanely like obviously fake as the first one.
yeah.
That's where my positives really end. I like some of the actors in here. I don't really like them here. Jimon Hansu is the closest one that gets to all right, but
Agreed.
this is atrocious.
This was really bad.
Oh my
I do have a favorite part, and I can find something nice to say about this movie. And
Oh,
I think
okay.
I think it needs more slow motion harvesting scenes.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Dude. Like, I think it's almost like you could say, yeah, it's a positive that it was less obvious that the fake sets and stuff like that were less obvious in this one. So, okay, that's a positive. But what unfortunately drew me to, without that to distract me, was the fact of how derivative both these movies are of much fucking better movies.
Yeah.
Holy shit! It felt
Let's
like
start off with the intro to the bad guy, which was just totally not from the Matrix, like at all.
Oh, and fun fact, it's just the same bad guy from the last one. He was brutally murdered, and you know they hinted at the mid-credit scene that he'd come back, and he comes back immediately in this one, and he's brutally murdered again. Will he be in the third one? God, I hope there's a third one, but yeah,
because if they're growing another one, if they're growing another one, obviously they'll have more. Like I
guess we'll get a little bit into the story because this story is much more grounded than the other one. Like, essentially,
believe it or not,
our 6 main heroes. They return to the planet that Cora and is it Gunnar? His name? I think it must be.
I believe.
Gunnar returned to the harvesting planet, the farming planet that they start out in the first one. They return there with their friends, and now they have to defend that planet against the oncoming horde of the army that I don't remember their name, and I don't care to fucking look it up.
The Empire.
It's the bad guys from the last movie are coming to invade. One detail I think is great is the fact that they're talking about how to defend the town, and they're coming for the wheat. So what we're going to do is we're going to scatter wheat all over the town, so that way they will be hesitant to attack the town. And then as soon as they attack the town, like that's never mentioned. They just go in guns blazes. It doesn't mean shit. It's like, whoa, what a great fucking detail to add in there.
Wait, guys, they have wheat.
Yeah. Well, and also like God, they have to go to this town to get wheat because wheat is like super valuable now. What am I missing something?
Man, I guess.
Oh God. Yes, Bob the Old Ways. Yeah, no, I mean you bring up a good point because Sophia Boutella is a very talented actress. Jamon Hansu's a very talented actor. Ed Screen's talented. Bae Dona, I'm certain I'm slaughtering her name, but like I know the Wachowskis use her all the time. She's fantastic. I love her in Sense8. Fucking Anthony Hopkins is in this.
He was great for what he was in it for.
Oh my god. It's all very bad. I just...
Carrie Elwes was in this.
Not recommend this movie enough.
Carrie Elwes was in this, and he was great when he was on screen.
We got back-to-back Carrie Elwes movies to talk
We do. And so, spoiler, he's fucking better than the other one.
Yeah, no, he's fucking... Well, the other one is so much better. But we're on Rebel Moon 2. The sequel that came out like 4 months after the first one. And as far as I can tell, they haven't started shooting Rebel Moon 3 yet. So I'm hoping we get a couple years break now, because I do not want to deal with one of these every couple months.
Yeah, I really don't.
Like, oh, I got on a conveyor belt. I can do a new Rebel Moon movie every 2 months, guys.
I don't want to deal with another one ever again.
Oh my god!
I was done after the first one, man.
Dude, like
I would rather watch Star Crash than this atrocious piece of garbage.
Hell yes. Well, I mean, there's a charm to something like Star Crash. Star Crash is just atrociously bad. I feel like, I mean, these are literally like, if I were to rank Zack Snyder's movies, these two are like the worst. Rebel Moon 1 and Rebel Moon 2, the worst.
They are sharing a space at the bottom of the
close.
list. They're sharing a space at the bottom of the list.
Yeah. Sucker Punch has a terrible story, but has great visuals. Something that Rebel Moons don't have.
No, there's some kind of okay ones, but not really.
Yeah. Lots of one element we have to talk about is the fucking exposition. Because you thought these characters were established in the first one. Well, guess what? They got more hidden backstory, and they're going to establish that. And I was literally laughing when there's that one scene where they're all just drinking and laughing and giving each other's tragic backstories one at a time with full flashback. And still, even with all those tragic backstories, I don't have a sense of who these characters are whatsoever. It is shockingly bad. I gotta love, I think his name is Tarek. He's on here. I'm pretty sure his role is to just walk around without a shirt for some reason.
Wait, hold on. I'm digging up the cast. What are you talking about? Because I do remember a gentleman not wearing a shirt the entire time.
Yeah, no, he was one of the main groups, and he just never wore a shirt. And it's like, okay, you're built, but like, can you not find a shirt?
What'd you say the character's name was again?
Tarek.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that guy. Yeah. That was his main purpose in this crowd.
Yeah, I guess just to look good.
Was to walk around and was just to walk around and be untrustworthy, not wearing a shirt.
Well, I mean, you got six of the returning heroes from the last movie. A third of them are dead by the end of this one. I don't care. The only thing I cared about was a Nemesis dying because I like the actress. I don't care about the character, who apparently, like, her tragic backstory was that, like, her village burned down, so she cut off her own arms so she could get cybernetic arms.
I forgot all about that until, like, that fight.
That was weird. That was so goddamn weird.
I forgot about that.
It's like, what are we doing?
It's like, wait a minute, when did she get robot arms?
Yeah, no, I assume something like she's part cybernetic, and I assume something tragic happened where she was terribly injured. No, she did it to herself. She just saw the robot arms, was like, "Oh, this looks cool." Whoop!
Want those? She rocket raccooned them into existence. Okay.
Yay! What a great backstory. And I know Zack Snyder said he's got like 1,000 years of mythology or some bullshit built up with this story, and it's like, I don't. Can you make one character I care about? Like, is that too much to ask?
That's not really, just an archetype.
Throw a dart at that character and say, I'm going to develop this character and make him likable.
Yeah,
please.
It did do that Game of Thronesy thing where they just jumped around to each one, and it's just, This is not how you develop characters, Zach. Like,
Well, you know what Game of Thrones does is it
develops
establishes
characters
likable characters. You get
and
characters like
dislikable
fucking
characters.
yeah. You get
Very
characters like
easily.
Tyrion.
Yeah,
You
and
get characters like Jon Snow. You get character like Daenerys Targaryen. You get characters you dislike, like fucking,
Ramsay Bolton,
yes. Oh my god, characters you truly hate. Ramsay
Joffrey
Bolton,
Baratheon,
Joffrey,
the High
thank you.
Scepter,
Oh my god,
the High Scepter,
the Mountain,
Cersei,
oh, Jesus,
Cersei, Jamie.
God.
Yes,
yeah. There are so many characters you hate. There are characters that get like not a whole lot of screen time, like fucking Pedro Pascal in season 4. He didn't get a whole lot of screen time, but like
he had his moment.
He had his moments, and like you got into his character, and you really hoped he would win, and of course he didn't. But like,
didn't fucking
it
wear a
was a
helmet.
tragic end to his character, and just pick one, Zack Snyder. Develop one fucking character that I care about, for the love of fucking God. I mean, Core is right there. He played by Sofia Boutella, very talented actress. Give her something to work with. I swear to God. I don't know if I have much more.
Chuck, I would rather watch After Earth again than ever watch another Rebel Moon movie. Yes, it is also terrible.
Yeah, After Earth is really terrible, but I do think it's actually better than Rebel Moon. I cannot, dude. I cannot think.
And I can't
like
stand Jaden Smith as an actor.
No, Jaden Smith's bad, but I can't actually think of any M. Night movies I like less than these Rebel Moon movies. They are that bad. And M. Night's got some fucking stinkers. Holy shit.
But he can knock it out of the park occasionally. Like, he could surprise us with Devil. And
Split was
this is
decent.
bad. Split was decent.
I don't know what happened to Zack Snyder. Maybe he's desperate to prove me right, because I always
he
said
just
like
got
he's
high
a
off
talented...
of his own. Yeah, maybe he just got high off his own hype, and
maybe like I've always said, he's a talented visual director, but he needs to listen to other people on the story. And like now he has all these fans that will just like, oh, he's brilliant at everything, and he's like, I'm brilliant at everything. I'm going to do everything on this movie. Oh God, no, you're not brilliant at everything, dude.
Like the Snyder cut of the Justice League, it felt like I was watching 3 movies kind of cut together into one.
It is better than the theatrical cut, but it is way too
it
long.
is better,
but it is down. It needed cut down. I mean,
yeah, that could have been 2.
Still, I will happily watch that before any of the Rebel Moon movies again, because no matter that's really long, but it feels shorter than these movies. Yeah. Just FYI, I don't like these movies.
Yeah, no,
I don't know if I made that
suck.
clear.
These suck.
Are we ready for? Are we ready for Ministry?
Oh, absolutely. Let's get into this, because this was fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, no, this was a fucking fun one. Carrie, like, if you really want to see a new Carrie Ells movie, go to the theater and watch the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Don't watch fucking Rebel Moon 2. Just don't.
Also, I want to say the main villain in this, Till Schweiger, he is fucking great. Like he was in Inglourious Bastards, but I've seen him in other things, and like he's fucking great in everything.
Mm-hmm. No, well, I mean, he gets to play that creepy fucking German fuck. I love how he's introduced. Essentially, he's introduced by hey, there's Nazis, and then there's this fucking guy. Essentially, and it's like, oh shit. Yeah, and he's a piece of shit. Oh, there he is. Heinrich Lohr. Yeah, real piece of shit. Carrie Ells has a much bigger role in this movie too, so you can get that out of the way as well. Yeah, no, this is just a fun. Like, I don't know how. Like, it says based on a true story. I don't know how historically accurate it is, but this is just a fun World War II action movie, Guy Ritchie movie all the way. Where lots of Nazis die, and I am on board completely.
And not just like, your typical warfare type of like shot across the field death. Some are up close and personal, some are by explosion. Most are definitely shot in a small room with your comrades right by your side.
Oh, and Alan Richardson's great in this, Bob the Old.
Oh,
Alan Richardson is fucking
yes,
badass.
he is.
He kicks ass. He is one of the
That's
guys.
true English. That's true.
One of the big things he did was he was the bow and arrow guy. He's just shooting down Nazis with the bow and arrow. All quiet.
No. You're forgetting one part. Effortlessly shooting Nazis with a bow and arrow.
Yes.
Like,
Oh yeah, and he's so casual about it.
yeah.
It's awesome. Like I love when they're spying on the encampment, trying to figure out what's going on, and like there's a Nazi sneaking up behind him, and then you just see him like shoot him down, just like, oh yeah, they're gone.
He's walking up, and he's just like, "There's two more behind them that will see these, so we better move now."
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think all the actors are great. Alan Ritchson was a real standout, but like obviously Henry Cavill's awesome. A lot. I thought it was Isa
I actually
Gonzalez.
kept forgetting that was Henry Cavill.
True, he has that crazy facial hair, which is awesome. But I've never seen him in anything else. But the one guy, yeah, Dr. Mbenga from Strange New Worlds. He was awesome.
Yeah, I recognized him immediately. I was like, "Oh,
yeah!" I was like, "Oh,
yes.
Strange New Worlds, Star Trek guy."
I was like, "Oh, fuck yes!"
He's killed Nazis too. Well, actually, he does kill some Nazis. I was about to say, I don't know if he kills Nazis, but like he works a lot with Stewart. Yeah, there's Stewart. He works a lot with her. Essentially, they're the two that are picking up information to feed to the main group. And here's the main group. These are I guess the correct term would be these are the wet works guys. These are the guys that go in and just fucking kill them with the information they get.
Mm-hmm. Like one guy scuba swims over or like snorkels over, plants bombs, swims back. By the time he's out of the suit and on the boat, it's already blown up.
Well, I love how the boat's just like shooting at them, and it's like, we're in range. Is your bomb going to go off anytime soon? It's like, it's going to go off any minute, and then another shot's fired. It's like, okay, like it's unlikely they're going to hit us, but like they statistically could. Is it going to go off soon? Yeah, it's going to go off. Another shot, dude. and then they're about ready to reload. Then it blows up. It's like, there we go.
Told you. Wanted to give himself enough time to get back.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Bob the Old Ways. Yeah, this is just a fun goddamn movie. If you want to see Nazis get killed, this is definitely a movie to check out because it's a Guy Ritchie movie where Nazis are getting killed a lot. Totally worth it. Oh yeah, and I guess to go over the kind of the setup is just Churchill is losing the war. He needs to figure out a way to get the Americans on board, and the Americans are not going to join their side if they're losing. So he needs to put together his whole plan is to put together a group of essentially scoundrels to get a big win for them. So the Americans will be tempted to join. And that's where our group here comes in. They are the scoundrels to get big wins against the Nazis and pretty much their goal is just to kill a whole bunch of Nazis. They get, and they get an overall mission where they got to steal this. Well, they don't got to steal it. They got to blow up a U-boat. And that's kind of the ending of the movie, but it's very, very cool. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's a fun action movie by Guy Ritchie.
Yeah.
Who does fun action movies. So you're in good hands.
Yeah, I'm actually curious to read the no, I'm curious to read the book that this is about. I'd like to read more about this because this is a fascinating story. Considering it's also about Ian Fleming's time at working for the British government.
He is a character.
And yeah, I kind of clicked right then. I was like, oh, that's right. He did work for the government during World War II. That's right. I knew that. Huh.
And I when I heard that name, I was like, whoa, really? Because it's one of those things where it said based on a true story at the beginning. I was like, I don't know how seriously to take that. But then at the end, you get it gives you quick biographies of all the characters after the war. And I was like, oh, and actual pictures. I was like, oh, so it's moderately true at least.
Yeah.
Obviously, Guy Ritchie, I don't know how true, but it's moderately true. And at the end of the day, it's a fun goddamn movie. I recommend it. It's fun. Go check it out. Way before Rebel Moon 2. don't check out Rebel Moon 2. Just
way
don't.
before Rebel Moon. Like just
just
don't
don't.
even bother with Rebel Moon 2 because
Yeah,
it's
just
such a
yeah.
steaming pile of shit. Like
If you're wondering if you should go to the movie theater and watch this movie or renew your Netflix, go to the movie theater.
go to the movie theater.
Yeah. Don't worry. No. But yes, anything you want to add, or should we go on to Fallout?
Let's go on to Fallout.
All right. Fallout.
Yeah.
So I thoroughly enjoyed this series.
I did as well.
Yeah. So I didn't know what to expect because I've never played the fucking games. Pretty much I knew the title, I knew the smiley, happy face guy, with the thumbs up. And from the title, I assumed it'd be after some sort of Holocaust or something, but I didn't know the full details. It's about nuclear Holocaust. Sorry, some ideas from Pillar of Garbage's video get in here because I did watch that and he's fucking great. He just reached 100,000 subs. Check out Pillar of Garbage if you guys get a chance. But he talks about how how a Fallout is kind of like how the end of the world isn't actually the end of the world. It just how it changes because there's that great moment where Lucy is talking about how the bombs fell and destroyed the world, and Maximus is like, well, that didn't happen like 200 years ago. That happened when I was a kid. And then you find out like he grew up in this city that was blown up, after what we think of as the end of the world, but that was his end of the world, and how it's it can be a very personal story and it's different for everybody. The three main characters I enjoy thoroughly, especially Ella Purnell's Lucy and fucking Walton Goggins. He's fucking great in this. I love him.
He is great.
He is an actor in the past, and we see his story like before the bombs go off, and how he's getting involved with Vault Tech because his wife works for Vault Tech. He's he does commercials for him, and then he's learning about all the dirty secrets behind Vault Tech, and then he's also a ghoul because and I guess we kind of see one of the characters become a ghoul because essentially it seems like some experimental thing they gave him, which will help you kind of live for an indeterminate amount of time. But you can tell Walton Goggins is a little worse for wear as well in the future. But he's still alive, so hey, there are others who are significantly worse off than he is for sure. And it also is kind of an interesting story about how capitalism will destroy the world. Yes, this story is pretty anti-capitalist. Just saying.
It is very much.
So it's woke. It's woke. Bad. It's bad now. Sorry, guys. It's bad
evil.
Now.
It's
if it was just about how bad commies are, then that would be good. But it's not. No, I don't want to get too far into spoiler territory because there is some fun reveals in that last episode. But
there are some really great reveals in that last episode.
Yeah,
like Lucy pegging a ghoul in the head at close range.
Mm-hmm. That's another thing. If you're not sure if you want to renew Netflix for Rebel Moon 2, don't pick up Amazon for a month and watch Fallout. And I hate recommending giving dickhead money, Jeff Bezos.
Yeah,
but it's a good show. And shocking, we're getting decent video game adaptations now with this and Last of Us. It's kind of, I feel like there was no middle ground. Like video game adaptations were either some of the worst stuff ever, or now just really fucking good.
It was either the Super Mario Brothers movie from the 90s, or kind of can't think of a really deep or like this.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had a movie that's been good yet. And I will say Borderlands doesn't look great, but maybe it's just
looks
the trailer.
Terrible. That trailer looked terrible.
Yeah, that trailer, like I saw that trailer before Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
As did I.
Like, oh God.
I also saw the Deadpool trailer.
I didn't see that one. I feel ripped off now.
We'll watch it after the show.
Ooh. But yeah, so That trailer looked like essentially it's Fallout, but like done Guardians of the Galaxy style. And
but
it might
a
just be
cheap
the trailer.
knockoff. But a cheap knockoff from Temu.
Because that trailer felt like the same trailer for the Suicide Squad in 2016, the bad Suicide Squad movie.
We don't talk about that on the show, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
We never mention that again.
Oh dear. Fallout isn't in the 50s. In the time period, the entire society was completely around the military, so society was stuck in the 50s style, but it's the future. Yeah, Mikael, and hello, Mikael.
Hey.
It's not actually clear when the bombs fell at the point in the series, but yeah, no, it's obviously not actually 50s. I assume it's a stylistic thing, like how 80s have kind of come back now. We'll reach a point in the future where 50s stuff kind of comes back. It's kind of what I'm assuming they're saying. And it does. I love the 50s music and stuff like that played against the apocalypse. I like that stylistic choice. And I know that's from the game as well. Bob the Old Ways, it's hard to adapt video games because movies and TVs lack interactivity. They so rarely evoke this level of emotional investment. And yeah.
Agreed.
So,
agreed.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And what is interesting about something like Fallout is, to my understanding, it's pretty fucking open world. Like, to my understanding, you can beat most of the games in like a half hour if you just want to go straight to the target. But like, there's a whole world to explore, and kind of a sandbox game is what they kind of approach this at, because now what they end up doing is giving us 3 point of view characters and just following their individual stories in the world that I assume is fairly faithful to the game, but I don't know. And it's interesting, and I think they do a good job of it. At least looking at it independently as a TV series, I find it interesting and fascinating. For sure. And then Dermot's on Rebel Moon, which is really bad.
It is.
But yeah, so listen, Jake Sunrise is awesome. A Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare is awesome. Fallout's awesome. And then there's Rebel Moon.
It fucking sucked. It was just
there's
terrible.
no middle ground in the podcast today. There's just pretty fucking solid good stuff, and then fucking Rebel Moon.
It's a very favorable teeter-totter this week.
Yes. But yeah, Fallout, highly recommend this series.
Yeah.
Only 8 episodes, season 1. I think it got renewed. There's still like that, and that's another sign of a good series, because it felt like kind of a complete story, but there's still lots of holes that we still don't know the answer to. And they do a good job kind of like making it feel complete without like giving you all the answers. And I'm excited to see how it develops from here. Yes, excellent fucking series. Anything you want to add, Bobby?
No, you hit the nail on the head there.
All right. Well, I guess that would be it.
Yeah.
What do we got going on next week?
What do we have
Always
going on
requires
next
looking
week?
it up. If I were on top of it, I would have it already.
You'd have it tabbed, and I'd have it on my phone already.
True. But I don't believe in being prepared.
We are watching the last 5 episodes of Star Trek Discovery, the original
season 1.
The original Charlie Heston version of Planet of the Apes, and then we are watching X-Men Season 4, Part 1. So you have to set the parameters of what Part 1 is again.
Yeah. Well, I will look that up
because
right
it's
now.
just as a complete season. So I mean, I would look at it in the sense of episodes.
True, I normally do, but I didn't look.
No,
so let's find out exactly what Part 1 is, so people know what we're watching. I want to say there was like 20 or 21 in season 4.
So the first 10.
Probably. Let's see.
Oh,
it depends if there's multi-parters. Work it around the multi-parter.
Yeah. That's the big thing that this season definitely likes to do.
Let's see. So season 4. Okay, looks like first 11 because well, I need to double check the Disney Plus listing as well because it'll be a little bit different. But it looks like there'll be a multi-part that ends with episode 11.
That's what it looks like on IMDb. I am.
Oh, wait.
checking.
But there's only 17 here. Let me double check the Disney Plus listing. It's
Opening
different
now.
because it's weird. It's true. Dean Snyder doesn't know anything. Snyder could have been a great visual director if he had just like listened to actual like critiques and refined his craft. He could have been a great guy. You get to just get a cool looking movie, but instead he became the guy who like too many people thought he was the greatest guy ever, and just thought he could do no wrong.
Yeah, it looks like part 11 is the beginning of a two-parter on Disney.
All right. Yeah. So this season 4 is completely different. Oh, well, it ends with the big multi-part. Okay, so we will do. So if you're looking at Disney Plus, we will be doing the first 10. And there's 21 on here. Okay. Yeah. It's so weird. It does feel like they're doing it more in the order intended than the actual production order.
Yeah.
But yeah, it throws me off because IMDb is the production order. But we'll do the first 10 on Disney Plus. That sounds like
Okay.
good fun. Yes. Anything else you want to add, Bobby?
Nah.
All right. Real quick, I'm working on a new script. I came up with a scripted series, so I'm going to be. You might have noticed I'm doing less of the live stream edits for videos, and I will still do those, but I'm doing a kind of a scripted series that I think will be fun. Going to break down the different chud arguments kind of one by one and just essay them out. I think that will be fun. I think the first one's going to be an introduction, but the first issue I'm going to probably tackle will probably be the Mary Sue, which, yes, that'll probably be coming out in a month or so. Well, the intro will be coming out hopefully in a couple weeks, but yes, that's a new series I'm working on. I will still do the live stream video edits, but I will just be doing less of them, so I'll focus on ones that I think will get the views. I will also be doing more streams, guys, and I will keep the streams up longer. So if you really want to see the stuff I cover, they'll be up for longer. You guys can check them out. But yes, that's all the big news from this channel. We got initiative stuff probably happening Wednesday. I got I'll be doing a solo stream on Thursday and another solo stream probably Sunday. So yeah, everyone have a good one. Party on and
Take it easy,
be
guys.
excellent to each other.